Hey there, book lovers! Welcome back to Blooming Reads Folk Girl. Today, we're diving into The Courage to Be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. This powerful book challenges everything we think we know about happiness, self-acceptance, and personal freedom. It's based on the psychology of Alfred Adler, and it teaches us that our past does not define us. We have the power to shape our future. Have you ever felt stuck in life? Like no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to change? Maybe you think your past defines you, or that your problems are caused by others. But what if I told you that your life is completely within your control right here, right now? This book is about courage, the courage to live freely, to stop seeking approval, and to take responsibility for your own happiness. Inspired by the powerful ideas of Adlerian psychology, we'll explore why you don't need to be bound by your past and how you can start creating a better future. Part 1. Breaking free from the past. Many of us believe that our past experiences shape who we are. If we had a difficult childhood, we assume that's why we struggle now. If we've been hurt before, we believe it's the reason we can't trust anyone. This way of thinking makes it seem like our fate is already decided. But what if that's not true? Let's start with a bold idea. Your past does not determine your future. Most people believe that their past traumas control their present actions. If someone had a difficult childhood, they might say, "I can't be happy because of what happened to me." But what if trauma doesn't work the way we think it does? Think about two people who experienced the same painful event. One might overcome it and live a fulfilling life, while the other remains stuck in their pain. Why is that? It's because our experiences don't shape us, our interpretation of those experiences does. If we define ourselves by our wounds, we give them power over us. Instead of saying, "I can't be happy because of my past," what if we asked, "How can I use my past to become stronger?" Are there any painful events in your past that you still allow to control your present? What would happen if you decided to let them go? Next chapter, the power of choice. Here's another idea that might surprise you. You are not broken, and you don't need fixing. Everything you do is a choice, even if it doesn't feel like it. If you're unhappy, it's not because of your past, but because of how you choose to respond to it. For example, let's say someone is shy and avoids social situations. They might say, "I can't help it, I've always been this way." But is that really true? What if they are simply choosing to avoid interactions because it feels safer? What if instead of running away from discomfort, they decided to face it head on? Growth happens when we step outside our comfort zones. What is one behavior or mindset you've accepted as part of your identity? How would your life change if you chose differently? Next chapter, stop blaming, start living. It's easy to blame others for our problems. Maybe you blame your parents, your boss, or even society. But blaming keeps you stuck. It gives away your power. If someone else is responsible for your problems, then you're saying you have no control over your own life. Blame is a comfortable excuse. It allows us to avoid responsibility. But true freedom comes when we stop pointing fingers and start taking action. Have you been blaming someone or something for your unhappiness? What would happen if you took full responsibility instead? Next chapter, the importance of self-acceptance. Many people struggle with self-doubt. They think, "If only I was smarter, more attractive, or more successful, I'd be happy." But constantly chasing perfection only leads to frustration. Instead of trying to change who you are, what if you simply accepted yourself? This doesn't mean giving up on growth. It means understanding that you are enough, just as you are. Self-acceptance is the foundation of confidence. When you stop seeking approval from others, you become truly free. Do you constantly seek validation from others? What would happen if you started valuing your own opinion more? Next chapter. Your life starts now. The past is over. It's gone. The only moment that matters is this one. You are free to change, to grow, and to create the life you want. But it all starts with a choice. Will you let go of the past and take control of your future? Think about it. What if today was the day you stopped making excuses? What if this was the moment you decided to take action, to believe in yourself, and to create the life you've always wanted? Part 2. All problems are people problems. In life, we often think that if only certain people in our lives acted differently, we would be happier. Maybe if our parents were more understanding, our friends were more supportive, or our boss was less demanding, we'd have a better life. But Adlerian psychology presents a surprising idea. All problems are people problems. This means that the issues we face are not caused by external factors, but by how we engage with others. Our emotions, frustrations, and struggles are deeply rooted in our interpersonal relationships. If we can learn to understand and navigate human interactions better, we can significantly improve our quality of life. Most of our frustrations stem from our relationships. We often feel misunderstood, unappreciated, or mistreated. But have you ever noticed that the same situation can affect two people very differently? Imagine two co-workers in the same job. One enjoys their work, has great relationships, and finds meaning in their tasks. The other feels stuck, mistreated, and resentful. The situation is identical. The only difference is their interpretation and response to their environment. This teaches us an important lesson. Happiness is not about how others treat us, but about how we choose to respond. Have you ever blamed someone else for your unhappiness? How would your life change if you took responsibility for your reactions instead? Next chapter. The desire for recognition. One of the biggest sources of interpersonal conflict is our deep need for recognition and approval. We want to be liked, respected, and admired. We seek validation from our parents, friends, teachers, and colleagues. But this need for external approval is a trap. The moment we start living to please others, we lose our authenticity. Adlerian psychology teaches that true freedom comes when we let go of the need for approval. When we realize that we do not exist to meet the expectations of others, we start living on our own terms. How often do you make decisions based on what others will think? What would change if you prioritized your own values and desires? Next chapter. Letting go of control. One of the biggest sources of frustration in relationships is the desire to control others. We want our loved ones to behave a certain way, our colleagues to understand us, and our friends to always support us. But the truth is, we cannot control anyone else, only our own actions and reactions. When we stop trying to change people and instead focus on how we interact with them, we free ourselves from unnecessary frustration. Are you holding on to expectations that others should change? How would your life improve if you focused on your own growth instead? Next chapter. What is yours and what is theirs? Adler introduced a concept called task separation. This means that in every relationship, there are things that are your responsibility and things that belong to the other person. Many of our conflicts arise when we take on tasks that don't belong to us, such as trying to control how someone else feels or behaves. For example, imagine a parent who wants their child to study harder. The child, however, is not interested. The parent worries, scolds, and pushes them to change. But here's the reality. It is not the parent's task to make the child study it, is the child's task. The parent's role is to provide guidance, but ultimately, the decision and its consequences belong to the child. Understanding this distinction can reduce stress and improve relationships dramatically. Are you taking responsibility for things that are not your task? What would change if you let go? Next chapter. Accepting that not everyone will like you. Many of us spend years trying to be liked by everyone. We avoid conflict, say yes when we want to say no, and sacrifice our happiness for others. But no matter how hard we try, we cannot please everyone. A key part of personal freedom is accepting that some people will dislike you, and that's okay. What matters is not pleasing everyone, but living a life that aligns with your values. Do you avoid being your true self out of fear of rejection? What would happen if you embraced who you are without apology? Next chapter, the power of encouragement. Many of us are raised in environments where we are judged, criticized, and compared to others. This creates deep insecurities and a fear of failure. But imagine a world where, instead of criticism, people focused on encouragement, where instead of saying, "You're not good enough," we heard, "You have potential." Encouragement is one of the most powerful tools in human relationships. When we encourage others, we empower them to grow. And when we encourage ourselves, we gain confidence to take risks and live fully. Who in your life could benefit from encouragement? How can you practice encouragement in your daily interactions? Next chapter, living in harmony with others. Adlerian psychology teaches that true happiness comes from contributing to the well-being of others. But this does not mean sacrificing yourself for others. It means finding ways to add value to the world in a way that feels fulfilling to you. Living in harmony with others does not mean avoiding all conflict. It means embracing differences, respecting others' choices, and focusing on what you can give rather than what you can take. How can you contribute positively to your relationships and community? What small action can you take today to make a difference? Next chapter, final thoughts on people problems. If all problems are people problems, then solving them requires a shift in mindset. Instead of trying to change others, we must focus on how we engage with the world. Instead of seeking approval, we must find confidence within ourselves. And instead of holding on to resentment, we must choose personal responsibility. By doing this, we unlock true freedom, the ability to live authentically, love deeply, and build meaningful relationships without fear or frustration. What is one major relationship challenge you are facing? How can you apply the principles of task separation, self-acceptance, or encouragement to improve it? Part 3. The power of personal freedom. Many of us live our lives seeking approval, afraid to step outside of societal expectations, and burdened by the need to please others. But true happiness comes when we embrace our own path, independent of external validation. Personal freedom is the ability to live authentically, without the weight of others' opinions dictating our choices. Next chapter, the trap of seeking approval. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek praise and avoid disapproval. We are taught to be good children, to meet expectations, and to work for recognition. While external validation can feel rewarding in the short term, it creates a dangerous trap. We become dependent on others to feel worthy. When our self-worth is tied to approval, we become anxious about how we are perceived. We hesitate to make decisions that might be unpopular. We fear standing out or being disliked. But here's the truth: no matter what you do, not everyone will approve of you, and that is completely okay. Have you ever made a decision based on what others expected, rather than what you truly wanted? How did it impact you? Next chapter, the courage to be disliked. One of the most liberating lessons from Adlerian psychology is the idea that being disliked is a necessary part of living authentically. If you live true to yourself, some people will not agree with your choices. They may criticize or reject you. But does that mean you should abandon your path? The pursuit of universal approval leads to inauthenticity. The moment you stop caring about what others think, you free yourself to live according to your values and beliefs. Consider great leaders, artists, and visionaries. Many of them faced criticism, but they changed the world because they refused to conform. Are there areas in your life where you hold back because you fear being judged? What would happen if you let go of that fear? Next chapter, breaking free from social expectations. Society imposes countless expectations: how we should dress, what careers we should pursue, when we should marry, and even how we should express emotions. But many of these rules are arbitrary. They do not necessarily align with what brings us happiness. Personal freedom means questioning these expectations. It means choosing paths that align with your own desires rather than blindly following societal norms. Imagine two people. One follows the traditional path, prioritizing stability and social approval, while the other carves their own unique journey. Who is truly free? The one who has made a conscious choice, rather than simply obeying expectations. What societal expectations have influenced your life? Are they helping or limiting you? Next chapter, the responsibility that comes with freedom. Freedom does not mean recklessness. It does not mean ignoring responsibilities or neglecting those around us. Instead, it means taking full ownership of our choices and their consequences. Many people fear freedom because it comes with accountability. If we embrace personal freedom, we can no longer blame others for our failures. But the reward is immense: self-determination and true independence. Are there areas in your life where you avoid taking responsibility? How would embracing accountability change your life? Next chapter, overcoming fear and doubt. One of the biggest obstacles to personal freedom is fear of failure, rejection, or making the wrong choice. But fear is simply an emotion, not a fact. It is often exaggerated by our own minds. How many times have you worried about something that never actually happened? How much time have you wasted on self-doubt instead of taking action? The key to overcoming fear is to take small steps. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting despite it. What is one fear that has held you back from making a bold decision? How can you take one step toward overcoming it today? Next chapter, living authentically. True freedom means embracing who you are, your strengths, your quirks, your passions. It means rejecting the idea that you must fit into a mold. Living authentically does not mean you will never face challenges, but it does mean you will live without regrets, knowing you stayed true to yourself. What aspects of yourself have you suppressed to fit in? What would it feel like to embrace them fully? Next chapter, final thoughts on personal freedom. Personal freedom is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It is not given by society, family, or friends. It is something you must claim for yourself. It requires courage, self-reflection, and the willingness to embrace discomfort. If you choose personal freedom, you will encounter resistance. Some will not understand your choices, but in the end, it is your life, and the only person who can decide how to live it is you. What is one step you can take today to start living more freely? As we come to the end of the first 3 parts of the Courage to be Disliked, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey so far. We've explored the power of breaking free from the past, how all problems are people problems, and the importance of embracing personal freedom. Each of these ideas challenges us to rethink the way we live our lives. Are we allowing our past to define us? Are we blaming others for our struggles instead of taking control? And most importantly, are we living authentically, or are we trapped by the need for approval? The key takeaway from these 3 parts is this: you are in control of your own life. Your past does not determine your future. Other people's opinions should not dictate your happiness. And true freedom comes when you stop seeking approval and start living on your own terms. But this journey isn't over yet. In the next part, we'll dive even deeper into the power of contribution and how finding meaning through helping others leads to a more fulfilling life. We'll explore how relationships can be built on mutual respect and why courage is necessary to live a life of purpose. So, take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed. What changes can you start making today? How can you apply these lessons to your own life? If you've enjoyed this exploration so far, make sure to stay tuned for the next video, where we'll continue with parts 4 and 5. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time, keep imagining, keep exploring, and keep reading.